My mother called me into the living room on a Tuesday night in March. I was halfway through my sophomore year at community college, studying business administration, working part-time at a grocery store to cover my books and gas. She and my father were sitting on the couch with papers spread across the coffee table. Financial aid forms, loan applications, my brother's acceptance letter to State University. "We need to talk about next semester," she said. I sat down. My father wouldn't look at me. "Danny got into state," my mother continued. "Full tuition is $28,000 a year. We can cover some of it, but we need about $15,000 more annually. We've looked at every option." She paused, looked at my father. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. "We need you to take a break from school, work full-time, help us pay for Danny's education." I sat there for a moment trying to process what she'd just said. "You want me to drop out so Danny can go to college?" "Not drop out," she said quickly. "Take a break, a gap year or two. You can go back later. Danny has this opportunity now. He needs it more than you do right now." "He needs it more?" I repeated. "He has a 2.8 GPA. I have a 3.7. He barely got into state. I got a partial scholarship to community college." "He's younger," my father said finally, still not looking at me. "He needs guidance. You're more independent. You'll be fine." 10 years later, Danny called me from our parents' house where he still lived, asking if I had any job openings at one of my businesses. I was sitting in my office above my second coffee shop, looking at the expansion plans for my third location, reviewing payroll for 43 employees. "What kind of work are you looking for?" I asked, already knowing this conversation wouldn't end well. "I don't know. Maybe management? I have a degree." "In what?" "Communications." "And what have you done since graduating?" Silence. "Danny, I've been looking. The market is tough. I've had some interviews." "It's been 3 years since you graduated," I said. "What have you been doing?" "I've been applying, taking some time to figure things out. Mom and Dad said I could stay at home while I search." Of course they did. Let me take you back, because this story isn't about a college degree. It's about learning that some people will sacrifice your future to protect someone else's comfort, and then expect you to be grateful for the opportunity to struggle. If you've ever been told to put your dreams on hold for a sibling, if you've ever been called selfish for wanting the same opportunities someone else got handed, you already know this story isn't about school. It's about learning that the best revenge isn't anger. It's becoming so successful, they can't ignore what they cost you. Danny was 4 years younger than me. Growing up, he was the baby, the one who got away with everything. I was the responsible one, the one who did chores without being asked, who got good grades, who never caused problems. Danny was the one who forgot homework, who needed tutoring, who required constant attention. When I was 12 and he was 8, I was already making my own lunches and getting myself to school. He needed Mom to wake him up, make his breakfast, drive him even though the bus stop was 2 blocks away. High school made the differences clearer. I took AP classes, worked part-time at a grocery store, saved money for college. Danny barely passed regular classes, played video games until 2 a.m., had no job and no plans. My parents said he was still figuring himself out. I said he was lazy. They said I was being harsh. When college applications came around, I applied to community college because we couldn't afford university. I'd go for 2 years, transfer to a 4-year school, graduate with less debt. It was practical. Smart. My parents said they were proud of me for being so mature. Danny's turn came 4 years later. He'd barely graduated high school, hadn't worked a single job, had no savings. But he wanted to go to State University, the big school 3 hours away, the one with D1 sports and Greek life, the one that cost $28,000 a year before room and board. When I asked how they'd pay for it, my mother said they'd figure it out. Danny deserved the full college experience. He needed the structure of university life. Community college wouldn't be right for him. That March night when they asked me to drop out, I said no initially. Just flat out no. I had one more year at community college, then I'd transfer. I'd worked too hard to quit now. My mother started crying, real tears, not the manipulative kind, which somehow made it worse. "We can't afford both," she said. "If you stay in school, Danny can't go. Is that what you want? To ruin your brother's future?" My father finally looked at me. "You've always been the strong one, independent. Danny needs more support. Surely you can understand that." What I understood was that being capable was punishment, that succeeding meant you deserved less, that my reward for being responsible was getting to sacrifice everything so Danny could coast. I said no again, went to my room, didn't come out for dinner. My father knocked around 10 p.m. "Your mother is very upset. Danny is in his room crying. He's worked so hard for this opportunity." I almost laughed. Worked so hard. Danny had done the bare minimum his entire life, and now I was supposed to give up college so he could party at State. But they wore me down. 3 weeks of guilt, of my mother's disappointed sighs, of Danny's sad eyes at breakfast, of my father explaining how family sacrifices for each other, how I'd understand when I was older, how this was temporary and I'd go back to school soon. I was 19 years old, exhausted from fighting, and I believed them when they said it would only be a year or two. So I agreed. I dropped out of community college 1 week before my sophomore spring semester ended. Started working full-time at the grocery store, handed over $600 a month to my parents for Danny's expenses. Danny went to State that fall, moved into the dorms, joined a fraternity, posted photos of parties and football games, called home once a week, asking for more money for textbooks or activities or emergencies that sounded suspiciously like he'd blown his food allowance at bars. I worked 45 hours a week at minimum wage, lived at home to save money, gave my parents over half my paycheck. They said I was doing a wonderful thing, that Danny appreciated it. He never said thank you, not once. 6 months in, I asked when I could go back to school. My mother said maybe next fall. They still needed help with payments. Danny had joined clubs, needed spending money. I should be patient. Another 6 months. Then another. A year passed. Then 18 months. I was 21 years old, still working at a grocery store, still living at home, still watching my paychecks disappear into my brother's education. I stopped asking about going back to school. They'd stopped pretending I would. Something shifted in me around that time. Not dramatic. Just a quiet understanding that nobody was coming to save me. That if I wanted a different life, I'd have to build it myself. That my family would take and take as long as I let them. So I started reading. Business books, entrepreneurship blogs, success stories of people who'd built things from nothing. I couldn't afford college, but I could afford library cards. I studied at night after work. Learned about business models, profit margins, marketing, management. I noticed something at the grocery store. The coffee station by the entrance was always busy but terrible. Stale coffee, broken machines, nobody maintaining it. People would buy it anyway, because they needed caffeine, and we were convenient. I started thinking about what a good coffee shop could do. Really good coffee, comfortable space, consistent quality. I started saving money again, but differently this time. Not for college. For something mine. I told my parents I was reducing my contribution to $300 a month instead of $600. My mother protested. Danny still had 2 years left. I said I'd been paying for 2 years already and needed to save for my own future. After everything we've done for you, my father said, after we raised you and supported you. I'm still helping, I said, just less. I didn't tell them what I was saving for. They wouldn't have understood. It took me 3 years of brutal saving, working overtime shifts, taking extra hours, cutting every expense. I lived on rice and beans. Didn't go out. Didn't date. Saved every penny beyond my reduced contribution and basic expenses. By the time I was 24, I had $18,000. Danny was graduating that May. I was opening a coffee shop in June. I found a small space near downtown. 600 square feet, cheap rent, needed work. I spent 3 months renovating it myself. Painted walls, built counters, installed equipment I bought used, learned plumbing and electrical from YouTube videos. Opened with a menu of 8 drinks and a dream. Named it Second Chance Coffee. My parents didn't come to the opening. They were at Danny's graduation. The shop struggled at first. I was working 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Barista, manager, cleaner, accountant, everything. But slowly, customers came, then came back, then brought friends. People liked the coffee, liked the space, liked that I remembered their orders. Within 6 months, I was breaking even. Within a year, I was profitable. Within 18 months, I was looking at a second location. Danny graduated with his communications degree and moved back home. Started applying for jobs, which seemed to mostly involve sleeping until noon and playing video games. My parents supported it. He needed time to decompress after the stress of college. He'd find something soon. Meanwhile, I was opening my second coffee shop, this one twice the size of the first, hiring my first employees, learning to scale. Family dinners were awkward when I visited. My parents would ask how the coffee thing was going, like it was a hobby. Meanwhile, they'd talk about Danny's job search like it was a full-time career. He'd had 3 interviews in 8 months. They were so proud. I was managing 2 businesses, and they asked if I'd considered going back to school eventually, getting a real degree. Danny asked to work at my coffee shop about a year after graduating, said he needed something while he looked for a real job. I almost said no, but he was my brother. So I gave him a barista position, minimum wage, same as everyone else. He lasted 3 weeks, said the hours were too early, the work was too hard, dealing with customers was beneath him. He had a degree. He shouldn't be making coffee. I told him plenty of people with degrees work hard jobs. He quit. Told our parents I was on a power trip. They nodded sympathetically. My businesses kept growing. I opened a 3rd location when I was 27. Expanded the menu, started roasting my own beans. Hired a manager for each location so I could focus on growth. By 28, I had 43 employees across 3 shops and revenue that would have shocked my parents if they'd asked. They never asked. They asked Danny if he'd heard back from that marketing position he'd applied for 3 months ago. The call came on a Tuesday. Full circle. Danny needed a job. Had been living at home for 3 years, was 25, had barely worked since graduating. Our parents were starting to pressure him. Could I help? I asked what he wanted to do. He said management. I asked what made him qualified. He said he had a degree. So do millions of people, I said. What experience do you have? None. What skills? Communication, I guess. Team player. Can I send you my resume? Sure, I said. Send it. The resume was 1 page of nothing. His degree, his fraternity, a summer internship at our uncle's office where he'd basically filed papers, no real work history, no achievements, no measurable results. Just a communications degree from State University that my family had sacrificed my education to fund. I looked at that resume and felt something cold settle in my chest. This was what I'd given up college for. This was what my parents thought deserved investment over me. A 25-year-old child with no work ethic and a useless degree. I called him back. Danny, I looked at your resume. And? I don't have anything for you. Silence. What do you mean? You have 3 coffee shops. You need managers. I have managers. I need baristas. But you already tried that and quit after 3 weeks because it was beneath you. That was different. I was still job hunting. I'm serious now. Are you? Because it's been 3 years and you're still living at home playing video games. That's not fair, he said, his voice getting defensive. The job market is tough. I've been trying. I had no degree, and I built 3 successful businesses in the time it took you to do nothing with your paid-for education. Don't talk to me about tough. You're still mad about the college thing. The college thing, I repeated. You mean when I dropped out and worked full-time for 4 years to pay for your school? When I gave up my education so you could get yours? Yeah, Danny, I'm still mad about that. That wasn't my fault, he said. That was Mom and Dad's decision. And you benefited. You got a free ride to state while I worked grocery store shifts and handed over my paychecks. You had 4 years of parties and freedom while I had 4 years of sacrifice. The least you could have done was make something of it. I'm trying to make something of it, he said. That's why I'm calling you. No, I said. You're calling me because it's been 3 years and you've done nothing, and now Mom and Dad are finally pressuring you so you want me to bail you out. Again, like I've been bailing this family out since I was 19? So you're just going to let me struggle? He asked. The same entitlement I'd heard my whole life. Yes, I said. The same way I struggled when you were partying at State on my dime. Figure it out. Get a real job. Retail, food service, anything. Build a work history. Then maybe in a few years, if you've proven yourself, we can talk. I can't believe you're this cold, he said. I'm not cold, I said. I'm done. There's a difference. He went to our parents. They called me that night, both on speakerphone, which meant I was in trouble like I was 16 again. Danny says you refused to help him. I don't have positions for someone with no experience, I said. You have 3 businesses, my father said. Surely you can find something. I found him something 3 years ago. He quit after 3 weeks. He wasn't ready then, my mother said. He's ready now. Is he? I asked. Because he's 25, unemployed, living in your house, and from what I hear, he sleeps until noon and plays video games all night. That doesn't sound ready. That sounds like the same entitled kid you sent to State on my dime. We did what we thought was best, my father said. We gave Danny an opportunity. You gave him my opportunity, I corrected. You made me drop out. You took my tuition money. You sacrificed my education for his, and he's done nothing with it. You've done fine, my mother said. You have your coffee shops. I have my coffee shops because I built them from nothing after you derailed my life. Not because of you, despite you. That's not fair, she said. We supported you. You took 50% of my paychecks for 4 years and never let me go back to school. That's not support. That's exploitation. The conversation went nowhere. They thought I was being cruel, punishing Danny for their choices. They were right about one thing. I was punishing him, not for their choices, for his, for taking everything and giving nothing, for benefiting from my sacrifice, and never once saying thank you, for coasting through life on my work and then expecting more. I stopped going to family dinners after that. They'd call occasionally, guilt trips about missing holidays, about being selfish, about forgetting where I came from. I never forgot where I came from. That was the problem. I remembered exactly where I came from. Remembered every shift I worked while Danny was at frat parties. Every paycheck I handed over. Every time I asked about going back to school and got told to be patient. I remembered all of it. Danny eventually got a job. Retail, part-time. Our parents acted like he'd been hired as a CEO. Posted on Facebook about his new position with pride. He made probably $12 an hour, worked 25 hours a week, still lived at home. But hey, he had a degree in communications from State University. Worth every penny of my sacrifice, clearly. I'm 32 now. I own 3 coffee shops that generate about $400,000 in annual revenue. I'm looking at franchising. I bought a house 2 years ago, paid cash, drive a car I own outright, have savings and investments and a retirement account. Built a life that's entirely mine, funded by work that never stopped. I never went back to college. Didn't need to. Turns out real-world experience and relentless work ethic beat a communications degree from State. My parents still don't really understand what I've built. They see coffee shops. They don't see the business acumen, the financial management, the operations, the marketing, the leadership. They especially don't see the irony that the child they sacrificed became more successful than the one they invested in. That their golden boy who got the full college experience is working retail part-time while their dropout owns multiple businesses. Do I regret not fighting harder to stay in school? Sometimes. I wonder what life would have been like if I'd refused, if I'd drawn the boundary at 19 instead of 24. But regret doesn't change the past. It just colors the present. What I don't regret is cutting them off when I did. Is refusing to enable Danny's uselessness, is building something they can't claim credit for or take from me. They sacrificed my education. I sacrificed my relationship with them. Fair trade. If you've ever been told to put your dreams on hold for a sibling who squandered their opportunities, this is for you. If you've ever been called selfish for wanting the same investment someone else got, this is for you. If you've ever built an empire from the ashes of someone else's priorities, this is for you. You don't owe anyone your success just because they're family. You don't owe anyone opportunities they wouldn't give you. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let people face the consequences of taking you for granted. Tell me in the comments, have you ever sacrificed your education or career for a sibling? Did they appreciate it or waste it? I read every story. And if you want more stories about people who became successful despite their family instead of because of them, subscribe. Sometimes the best revenge isn't anger. It's a business card that says owner.